Hey there, welcome to the beginning of Unit 3. We have a whole brand new unit to be starting. This is going to be the last lesson for this week, and then we will continue on with Unit 3 next week. I wanted to start off by talking to you about the Unit 3 syllabus. If you were in class and you've already heard me talk about this, but if not, that's probably why you're watching this video. So it's going to give you a little bit of insight. So Unit 2 is a really, really long unit. Unit 3 is a very short unit. We're going to be at our next test before you know it. So today, Thursday, March 4th, we're going to be learning about some of the important structures of the new Constitution, just so that you are a little bit reminded about some of the things that you learned in civics to make sure that we're all on the same page as we move into understanding how our new government works. Tomorrow, the 5th, is going to be a student work day. As always, you do your wellness check. Monday, March 8th, we're going to continue on with making sure we've got a good understanding of some of our new rights and who was in support and was not in support of that Bill of Rights that we're going to talk about today. Tuesday, the 9th, we're going to do day 1 of Washington's presidency. And on Wednesday, we will do day 2. And then on Thursday, we will have another day on Washington where we talk about him stepping away and backing down from being president and his farewell. Friday, March 12th, you'll have another student work day. Monday, the 15th, Adams administration day 1. The 16th, day 2. Wednesday, Jefferson's presidency. Thursday, the legacies of our first president, and then another work day. And we come back on Monday, March 22nd for the Unit 3 test. And that'll also be when your Unit 3 interactive notebook is due. So you can see it's from the 4th to the 22nd. Basically, we've got 2 full weeks that we will be covering, and then it'll be time for your next test. So this is going to move pretty quickly. This also will bring us to the end of the quarter. This will be your last test that you have for this quarter. So it's going to be really important that we're doing the best that we possibly can, because the quarter ends just a couple days after this. All right. Well, I guess it ends the next week, but you get the point. It's going to be soon. Your lesson today is Unit 3, Lesson 1, and we're going to talk about the new Constitution. We last left off in Unit 2 talking about the Constitutional Convention being made because the Articles of Confederation were too weak, and then the Federalists and Anti-Federalists arguing over whether or not we should ratify the Constitution. Spoiler alert, we follow it still today. The Constitution got ratified. So today it says students will be able to identify some of the major changes to our government under the U.S. Constitution in order to understand how the stage will be set for guiding our new nation. That is going to be our focus for this unit, is really looking at how these early founding fathers, so our early presidents of Washington and Adams and Jefferson, and the role of Hamilton, and how these guys kind of set the stage for what will continue to happen in our country. We're going to go over a set of notes. When we go through this set of notes, you need to fill in two interactive notebook pages that go along with it. So if you have not done so already, take the time now, go and open up a copy of your interactive notebook. It's going to force a copy just like normal once you get in here, and you click on it and you click make a copy. Again, as always, you're going to have required pages and optional pages. The optional pages will get you that extra credit on your test. The required pages count as a quiz grade. So you want to make sure that you are getting them done. So we've always got an introduction page, and then we've got our first topic, which is the Constitution. So today you're going to be filling out this page on the Bill of Rights and the Elastic Clause, and then this page on the different powers of the different levels of government. We will do the next ones on next week. I know that looks cumbersome. Don't worry. We're going to be going through that together to make it a little bit easier. But today, you're going to be filling in these 2 pages as we are going along. So I'm going to pop back here. Let me go ahead and pull up the notes and get them open. So we are happy. The Constitution has been passed. It has been ratified. Alexander Hamilton is super excited about it. Today, what we're going to be doing is going through these notes and those pages. After you are done with that, if you did not finish the Unit 2 test, from yesterday, that is priority number one. Make sure you get that test done and turned in. After you're done with that, or if you are already done with it, then you can work on your test corrections after we get done with the notes to be able to increase your test grade or finish any missing work that you might have. So those are your two options. There's not an individual assignment to go with today. I'm giving you guys the time to be able to work on those test corrections and really pull your grade up. These are the two notes, as I already said, notebook pages that you need to fill in. Hopefully at this point, you've already got them pulled up. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So the first things I want to talk to you about are the basic rights that were guaranteed to us by the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, just so you kind of know where we are going forward. All of this stuff you learned about already in civics. This should all be review, but it is an important review because a lot of these things are going to be mentioned throughout the rest of the course. So you kind of got to know that basis that's there. So we're going to start by talking, obviously, about the First Amendment to the Constitution, which is going to protect your freedom of speech, press, petition, religion, and gathering or assembly coming together. So these are the things that are protected with the First Amendment to the Constitution. I'm not going to go through and have a deep dive on each of these amendments because, as I said, that's what your civics class was for. I just want to remind you of like, these are the things that you are protected for under this new government that we now have. The Second Amendment gives citizens the right to bear arms, meaning that they can own weapons to protect themselves. The Third Amendment takes away the quartering of soldiers. So it says that you cannot be forced during peacetime to house soldiers in your homes. Remember, they were really upset when the English did that to them before, and they were like, we want to make sure that doesn't happen again. The fourth one protects you from unreasonable search and seizure. This is what's going to require that if the police want to search for something, they have to have a warrant to do it. And the fifth one is quite cumbersome. So the fifth one actually has 5 different components to it. It says that you cannot be proven or you cannot be accused of a crime unless you are indicted by a grand jury, at least if it's a felony. So a grand jury is the one who's going to decide if a case needs to actually go to trial. That way people aren't going around and being like, you're arrested and you're arrested and you're arrested and you're charged with this just because we want to, and you're charged with that just because we want to. You need to have a jury of peers that say, look, here's the circumstances, here's what happened. Do we think there's a chance this person could have possibly done that? This protects that right of yours in the Constitution. It also says you cannot be tried for the same crime twice, so no double jeopardy. You can't take, or the government can't take anybody's land, life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And it also says you can't be forced to speak against yourself, so no self-incrimination. So there's just some basic like things that are really important to us, but they're all kind of included in that one amendment. It's quite a lengthy amendment. The Sixth Amendment says that you have the right to a speedy trial by jury in criminal cases, and you also have the right to a lawyer. The Seventh Amendment says you have the right to a trial by jury in civil cases. This is when somebody is going to sue somebody else. The Eighth Amendment says no cruel and unusual punishment and no excessive bails and fines. So therefore, you cannot be like punished severely or like beaten or anything like that whenever a person is in jail. Number 9 says that if they missed anything, any rights that they didn't put down that maybe they forgot about, don't worry, they're still going to be protected. So any rights not listed are still protected. And the 10th Amendment says that the federal government only has the power to actually use the powers mentioned in the Constitution. If there's a power of government not mentioned in the Constitution, then that belongs to the states and the people. So anything not discussed in the Constitution, like education, for example, no mention of education law or anything like that in the Constitution, that means it's going to be more of a state issue. So that's just a little recap, just a little reminder of like, oh yeah, these are the rights that we're going to have under this new government. Let's talk about the elastic clause now, because it's going to come in super handy later when we're talking about things. Let me zoom myself out a little bit. Here we go. So you should have also learned about the elastic clause. Now, this one at the bottom of the page last semester, a lot of people forgot that it was there. So look at the bottom of that same interactive notebook page and you will see where it asks you to put a definition for the elastic clause there. It's so far down at the bottom because I wanted to leave you room to put in the information for the 10 amendments. So this is really referred to as the necessary and proper clause. We call it the elastic clause because that's the nickname that it's given, because it allows the government to stretch their power. So basically it says that the government has the power to create any laws that are both necessary and proper so that they can carry out their powers listed in the Constitution. So essentially, it allows them to kind of go beyond exactly what the Constitution says and create it. So, prime example, the Constitution actually says that we can create an Army and a Navy. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say we can have an Air Force. We now have an Air Force, and that's because now we have airplanes. We didn't have them when the Constitution was written. So at the time, it wasn't necessary to create an Air Force. Nobody ever even knew that could be a thing. Once airplanes became a thing and we figured out we could use them for war, then we said, oh, it is both necessary and proper to now create another branch of the military and create the Air Force that will focus on flying. So now we have land, sea, and air all represented. So that's a perfect example of what the elastic clause does. It allows the government to stretch its power out of it. And as we talk more and more about the growth of power in the government, you're going to see more of that stuff come around. All right, now you need to go to the next page in your interactive notebook. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is the idea of federalism. This is something, again, you should have learned about in your civics class, but it is something that students can never just quite have stick in their head. And I don't know why, but it's really important for you to understand the relationship between the states and the national government as we move forward, especially because we know that ultimately we're going to eventually get to the Civil War and have a clash. So we're the first country ever to try this system out. There are other countries now that have followed in our footsteps and use federalism, but we're the first ones to do it. And all this means is that under a federalist system, the national government is going to have some powers, and then the state governments are going to have some powers that just they can do. And then there will be some things that both of them can do. Because remember, they were very fearful of giving all the power to the national government, or what we would call today the federal government, the largest level, because they don't want them to abuse that power. So it was really important that the states would still continue to be able to keep a lot of power. So I just want you to put in your notes, what are some of those things that they can do. So when it comes to the national government, only the national government can declare war. We don't want the state of South Carolina to be able to declare war on the country of France and get the whole country involved in that. So only the US government can declare war. They are the only ones that create and maintain the armed forces. They can establish foreign policy with other countries. They can regulate trade that happens in between the states. So between North Carolina and South Carolina, for example, they set trade regulations. They can coin money so that we have US money and not like Virginia money and New York money and Pennsylvania money. It just makes it easier to have one currency for the whole country. And they can do things like establish post offices. Now the list could go on, but I just want you to see that we're talking about things that either cross over from state to state or things that deal with our relationship with other countries. So these are bigger items that the national government needs to have its hands on. Powers that are only given to the state governments include the power to establish a local government. So the US government can't just create a city. A state has to decide if they want to make a new city in their state. Next, they can establish and maintain schools. They can regulate intra-state trade, which is trade that happens within the state. So something leaving Charlotte and then going to Raleigh would be intra-state trade. So North Carolina will be the one that actually regulates that. They conduct elections. This one is huge. A lot of people always think because we elect people on a national level that they must run the elections. No, every state has their own state-by-state election laws. Obviously, we're electing people to a national level, but election laws are made at a state level. I put that on there twice. Ignore that. I didn't mean to do that. So that's how important it is, y'all, because you get conducted twice. You're conducting those elections, so important. And then they provide for public safety for the people of that state. And then lastly, there are some things that both of them can do. Number one example of that is collect taxes. You're going to pay local taxes and state taxes and national taxes. You're going to get taxed at every level of government. They maintain law and order. They can both borrow money. They can both create banks. They can both establish courts, and they can both do things to try to provide for the public welfare of the people. So these are usually going to be referred to as your enumerated powers. These are going to be your reserved powers because they're reserved for the states, and these are going to be your concurrent powers that both can do. So hopefully those terms sound a little familiar to you from civics. Again, this should all be kind of review. It's just as we move forward, I needed you to be reminded of like these things that were set up in this new government that we made. So let me back out of here now, and I'm going to go back to our page. So you're going to fill in that interactive notebook page. Once you're done with that, as I said already, there's no official assignment that goes with this lesson because this was just some basic review stuff. So I want you to take the time to finish your test, work on missing stuff, or work on test corrections. If you have any questions, as always, let me know. I'm here to help you. If you're watching this video because you were absent, don't forget to do the lesson demonstrated form at the bottom of the page. And other than that, that brings this week to a close, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.